The scream that tore through the small Denver townhouse didn't sound human. It was raw, frantic, the kind of scream that made neighbors freeze mid-step. Harper Lane didn't even realize it came from her own throat. One moment she was clutching her 6-month-old son against her chest, trying to shield him from the chaos exploding around them. The next, her husband's arm cut through the air, and the world shattered into blinding white pain. Travis Coleman, broad-shouldered, red-faced, breath thick with whiskey, stood over her like a storm she could never outrun. His voice was a low growl soaked in rage. "You think you can defy me? You think you can walk away with my kid?" His spit hit her cheek. Her knees bucked, her vision blurred. The baby in her arms wailed, terrified. Harper tried to get up, but the dizziness pinned her down. 7 months pregnant, exhausted from weeks of sleepless nights, she didn't have the strength to fight back. She could barely breathe. She could barely think. She pressed her lips to her baby's forehead. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." But her whisper trembled so badly, even she wasn't convinced. In the doorway, Brielle Hart leaned her shoulder against the frame. Arms crossed, a smirk cutting across her glossy red lips. The woman Travis had been sneaking around with. The woman who had whispered poison into his ear for months? "I told you she'd try something dramatic," Brielle said, inspecting her nails like Harper was an inconvenience, not a human being. "Honestly, Travis, just end it. She's dragging you down. End it." The words slithered across the room. Harper's blood iced. Travis stepped closer. His shadow swallowed her. The baby cried louder, as if sensing the danger. Harper wrapped her arms tighter around him, her body trembling. "Please," she begged. "You're scaring him. Just stop, please." But Travis wasn't listening. He wasn't seeing her at all. His face twisted with something darker, older, a fury she had tried so long to deny. "I'm done with you, Harper. You don't get to ruin my life." He reached down and yanked her by the arm. Pain exploded through her shoulder. The baby nearly slipped from her grasp. Harper gasped and curled forward instinctively to protect both children, one in her arms and one inside her. Her knees crashed against the hardwood floor. Her head spun. For a second, the entire world tilted. Then it went dark. Her body slumped sideways. The baby screamed into the heavy silence. Brielle took a single step forward, nudged Harper's unconscious leg with the tip of her heel, and shrugged. Guess she finally shut up. Travis's breath hitched not in guilt, but in panic. Did I knock her out?" "Oh, please," Brielle scoffed. "Drama queen just fainted. Pregnant women do that all the time. Help me clean this up before someone hears." Someone had heard. On the cracked phone lying across the room, the screen flickered silently. A video call was still open, unanswered, but long enough for the brief image of Harper falling to be captured. Long enough for the person on the other end to see just enough. Long enough for that person to go very, very still. Evan Lane, Harper's brother. Colorado State Patrol detective. He was already grabbing his badge, shoving his keys into his pocket, and sprinting out the door. He had no idea what he was running toward. But Travis Coleman was about to find out exactly what it meant to hurt Elaine. And when Evan kicked open that door, nothing would ever be the same again. Harper Lane woke to the antiseptic smell of hospital air and the distant beeping of machines, each sound slicing through the fog in her mind. Her eyelids felt impossibly heavy, like someone had draped lead over them. For a moment, she didn't know where she was or how she'd gotten there. Then the pain hit sharp, radiating from her shoulder, her ribs, her belly. A tremor rolled through her as memories crashed back like a violent tide. Travis shouting, the baby crying, the room tilting, darkness swallowing her whole. Her breath hitched, ragged and uneven. Instinctively, her hands flew to her stomach. "Baby, please." Her voice cracked like broken glass. A warm, steady voice answered from her left. "Your baby's okay. And your little boy is safe too." Harper jerked her head toward the sound, wincing. A man sat beside her bed, early 30s, dark hair, steady brown eyes, built like someone who had seen combat and carried it quietly. He wore jeans and a gray t-shirt, sleeves pushed up to reveal faint scars along his forearms. He didn't look like a doctor, yet he radiated calm. "I'm Miles," he said gently. "I live across the street. I heard your baby crying. When nobody answered the door, I followed the noise, found you on the floor." He paused as if choosing his words. "You weren't breathing right. I got you and the baby out before things got worse. Harper swallowed. Her voice trembled. Travis, where is he? Miles's jaw tightened. In police custody. Your brother got there fast. Her chest tightened, relief and shame tangling together. Evan, she hadn't wanted him involved. She didn't want anyone to know how far her life had fallen, how small she'd become under Travis's temper and Brielle's quiet cruelty. But secrets had a way of bleeding into the light when everything finally broke. A nurse entered, clipboard in hand. Harper, sweetheart, you took quite a fall, but your vitals are stable now. Your unborn baby's heartbeat is strong. She offered a reassuring smile before her tone softened. But you need rest, and you need safety. Safety, a word that felt foreign. Harper blinked back tears. I don't know where to go. Miles leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're not going back to that house. Not now, not ever. His voice didn't rise, but it carried an iron certainty that made Harper's throat tighten. Your brother's filing an emergency protective order. Travis won't be within 100 feet of you. Harper looked away, ashamed. This wasn't supposed to be my life. I was doing everything right. I was trying so hard. She remembered the version of herself she used to be before Travis's temper, before Brielle's smirks, before fear seeped into her bones. She had been warm, hopeful, creative, a woman who dreamed of designing homes full of color and light, not surviving inside a dim house with locked doors and whispered apologies. You've been surviving, Miles said quietly as if reading her thoughts. That's harder than people think. A lump formed in her throat. She didn't know this man, but something in his steady presence steadied her. Gave her breath. Gave her space to feel something other than fear. The nurse adjusted Harper's blankets. Your brother will be here soon. He's been pacing the hallway like a storm cloud. Harper closed her eyes, letting a slow breath ease from her lungs. She wasn't okay, not yet. Her body was bruised. Her heart was shattered. Her future had collapsed in a single night. But she was alive. Her baby was alive. And for the first time in months, the air around her didn't feel dangerous. Something had shifted. Something was about to change. The hospital hallway outside Harper's room buzzed with distant footsteps, soft voices, and the rhythmic squeak of wheels on linoleum. Compared to the chaos of the night before, the calm felt unreal, almost like a world she wasn't sure she belonged to. Sunlight pushed through tall windows at the far end of the corridor, casting a pale gold across the polished floors. A quiet morning in Denver, but inside Harper's chest, a storm still raged. The door swung open, revealing her brother, Evan Lane, still in his Colorado State Patrol uniform. His face, usually calm, composed, a shield against everything cruel in the world, was carved with fury. Not loud fury, worse. The quiet kind that grew from fear. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled Harper gently into his arms. She winced, but she didn't pull away. Evan softened instantly. Sorry, he murmured, gripping the back of her head like he was afraid she'd disappear. I got here as soon as I saw that call. Harper's voice wavered. I didn't mean for you to see. Harper. Evan leaned back enough to meet her eyes. I saw him hit you while you were holding a baby. You think I'm worried about how it looked? His jaw flexed. He's lucky I didn't get there 90 seconds earlier. Behind him, Miles stepped inside, giving Evan space but staying close enough that Harper felt grounded. Evan glanced at him, assessing, then gave a short nod of acknowledgement. You the one who got her out? Miles nodded. Did what I could. She was fading fast. Evan clasped his shoulder. Thank you. You probably saved 2 lives. Harper swallowed the lump rising in her throat. Gratitude, shame, relief. It all tangled together. What happens now? Evan exhaled slowly. A lot. First, we've placed Travis under arrest for assault on a pregnant woman, endangerment of a minor, and obstruction. And depending on what the DA sees in the evidence, that list could grow. His eyes hardened. He's not coming near you again. Harper's hands twisted in the blanket. The certainty in Evan's voice felt like sunlight she hadn't felt in months. Second, Evan continued, you're not going back to that townhouse. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. My partner and I already collected your essentials. Everything else can wait. Harper's heart fluttered with panic. The nursery, my sketches, Liam's toys. They're safe, Miles said quietly. Your brother made sure of it. Harper blinked rapidly, trying to process everything. She'd spent months shrinking into corners of rooms, afraid to breathe wrong. Now, suddenly, people were standing for her. It felt overwhelming. Too big. Too bright. Evan pulled a chair beside her. "Harper, listen to me. I knew things were bad. I didn't know how bad. You should have told me." Tears slid down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I was scared," she whispered, "and I didn't want to ruin your image of me. You've always been the strong one." Evan's expression broke. "Harper, strength isn't pretending everything's fine. Strength is surviving long enough to ask for help." Miles stepped closer, voice steady as stone. "And you're not alone anymore." The room fell silent for a moment, the kind that feels like a turning point. Outside the window, Denver stretched wide mountains in the distance, sunlight glinting across rooftops, cars humming along morning roads. A world still moving, still alive, offering second chances. Harper wasn't ready to stand on her own yet, but for the first time in a very long time, she believed she might. Because everything she had known, fear, isolation, silence, was behind her now. And what waited ahead would change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Travis Coleman did not look like a man who had nearly killed his pregnant wife the night before. Sitting in the stark interrogation room at the Denver precinct, he looked bored. Irritated. As if this entire situation were a minor inconvenience, like a parking ticket or a late delivery. His hands were cuffed to the metal table, but he sat with the lazy arrogance of someone who believed the world still belonged to him. His lawyer, a slick man named Grayson Pike, paced the room with a confidence that made young officers roll their eyes. "Travis, I need you to stick to one narrative," he said, flipping through a folder. "She fell. Stress, pregnancy, fatigue, whatever, but you do not admit to touching her. Understood?" Travis scoffed. "I didn't do anything wrong. Harper exaggerates everything. You know how dramatic pregnant women get." But a flicker, just the smallest, betrayed him. A tightening of the jaw, a twitch in the fingers, a shadow crossing the eyes. His guilt lived there. He just thought he was too smart for consequences. Grayson didn't share his delusions. "The issue," he said, lowering his voice, "is the video call. Someone saw her collapse, and the bruises don't line up with a fall." Travis rolled his eyes. "Her brother hates me. He's blowing this out of proportion because he thinks I'm not good enough for her." "That brother," Grayson replied sharply, "is a state patrol detective, which means he knows exactly how to build a case." Travis shifted in his seat, annoyance swelling. "So what? Evan Lane can't do anything without evidence." "You handed him evidence," Grayson snapped. "A half-conscious wife, a screaming infant, and a room that looked like a hurricane hit it." Travis clenched his fists, metal cuffs rattling. "I didn't mean for her to pass out. Brielle said she needed a reality check. That's all." The mention of Brielle brought a darkness into Travis's expression, an obsessive, consuming hunger wrapped in entitlement. She had become his escape, his addiction. "Brielle understands me," he muttered. "She doesn't nag, she doesn't complain. She knows how to push me to be better." Grayson stared at him. "She encouraged you to hit your wife." "She encouraged me to stand up for myself," Travis corrected, voice hardening. "Harper was suffocating me, always asking where I was, what I was spending, making me feel like some kind of criminal. I provide for that family. She should have been grateful." "Travis," Grayson said slowly, "you haven't paid the mortgage in 3 months." Travis's nostrils flared. "That's only because Brielle said we should invest in the crypto fund. It was supposed to double." "It didn't," Grayson replied flatly. "And now you're drowning in debt with no assets and a wife who might testify against you." Travis's eyes darkened. "She wouldn't dare. She needs me." Grayson pinched the bridge of his nose. "From what I'm hearing, she doesn't need you anymore, and she's got a whole precinct ready to protect her." Travis leaned forward, breathing heavy, the muscles in his neck taut. For the first time, something like fear flickered across his face. But it wasn't fear of jail. It was fear of losing control over Harper, over the narrative, over everything he believed he owned. "She won't leave me," he said, more to himself than to Grayson. "She never leaves. She cries, she apologizes, she comes back." But this time, there had been no apologies, no trembling promises, no desperate attempts to calm him. Just silence. Just Harper collapsing in front of him. Just officers dragging him away while she lay motionless. Grayson checked his watch. "The detective assigned to this case is on his way in. Behave, and don't try to charm him, he's not the type. Travis smirked, leaning back in his chair. Every man has a weak spot. The door opened, and in walked Detective Evan Lane. His eyes met Travis's cold, unreadable, furious beneath the surface. Travis's smirk finally cracked. Because the weak spot was him. The morning news vans arrived before Harper even left the hospital. Their satellite dishes pointed toward the sky like metal vultures waiting to feed. Denver had no shortage of crime stories, but a pregnant woman nearly beaten unconscious while holding an infant by a man who had once been praised as a reformed community leader was the kind of headline that made producers hungry. The hospital staff tried to block the windows, but Harper could still hear the muffled chaos outside. Microphones clicking, reporters shouting Travis's name, camera shutters snapping like gunfire. Inside her room, the atmosphere felt tighter, heavier. Every beep of the monitor amplified her anxiety. She sat upright, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her blanket. "They're here because of me," she whispered. "They're outside talking like my life is some spectacle." Miles stood by the window, arms crossed, posture steady but protective. "They're here because your husband crossed a line no one can ignore," he said. "This isn't your shame, Harper, it's his." Evan entered a heartbeat later, jaw clenched, phone buzzing nonstop at his hip. "You need to stay off social media," he said without preamble. "Videos are circulating, people are speculating. I've already flagged a few accounts for harassment, but it's going to keep spreading." Harper's stomach twisted. "A video?" Evan hesitated, then nodded. "A neighbor's doorbell cam caught Travis dragging you back inside earlier that week. It doesn't show everything, but it shows enough." His voice grew tight. "And someone leaked the dispatch audio from last night." Harper covered her mouth, breath shaking. "Everyone will know." Miles shook his head. "Everyone will know what he did, not what's wrong with you." But the distinction didn't soothe her. Harper felt exposed, stripped bare in front of strangers who didn't know her story, people who would judge her for staying, for not calling sooner, for trying to hold a family together that was already broken. As the fear churned, the hospital door opened again. A nurse stepped inside, tablet in hand. "Miss Lane, I'm so sorry, but Child Protective Services has been alerted. It's standard procedure in cases like this." Harper's heart dropped. "They think I can't protect my children?" Evan stepped forward immediately. "Harper, listen to me. CPS is not the enemy. They're coming to document the situation, not punish you. You did nothing wrong." But Harper's voice cracked. "That's what everyone says until they take your babies." The nurse placed a gentle hand on her arm. "We're on your side, and you have a police detective and a medical professional who witnessed everything. You are not losing your children." Still, Harper felt the humiliation burn under her skin. Not because of CPS, not because of the cameras outside, but because her private nightmare, something she had endured silently, quietly, shamefully, was now splashed across the world like entertainment. Evan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, his expression sharpening. "Great," he muttered. "Travis's mistress just posted on social media." Harper felt the blood drain from her face. "What did she say?" Miles answered softly, "She's claiming you staged everything." Harper closed her eyes. "Of course she is." Evan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let her talk. She's digging her own grave." "Harper," Miles added, stepping closer, "the truth is finally out. The world isn't laughing at you. They're watching you survive." Harper looked between the two men, her brother and a stranger who felt strangely like an anchor, and drew a shaky breath. It didn't erase the humiliation. It didn't erase the fear. But for the first time, she realized something. She wasn't hiding anymore. And that terrified the people who once controlled her. Harper lay in the dim hospital room long after Evan and Miles stepped out to speak with detectives. The quiet should have soothed her, but instead it pressed on her chest like a weight she couldn't lift. The world outside buzzed with judgment, noise, and strangers dissecting her life. Inside, the silence echoed all the fears she had shoved down for months, maybe years. Her baby slept in the bassinet beside her, tiny chest rising and falling in fragile rhythm. Harper touched the edge of the blanket with trembling fingers. She'd promised herself she would never let her children grow up in chaos. Yet here she was bruised, pregnant, and terrified, unsure what tomorrow would bring. A thick wave of shame crashed over her, not because she'd been hurt, but because she had stayed so long, She curled onto her side, clutching her stomach. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the baby inside. "I should have left sooner. I should have protected you better." The door clicked softly. A social worker, a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and a soft sweater, stepped inside carrying a folder. "Harper, my name is Denise. I'm here to talk about next steps." Harper's pulse spiked. "Please. I can take care of my kids. I swear, I know how this looks, but—" Denise sat gently on the edge of the bed. "You're not in danger of losing them, but you need a stable environment. Somewhere safe. Somewhere Travis can't reach." Harper nodded numbly, but the panic didn't fade. "I don't have anywhere to go." Denise hesitated, then offered a small, hopeful smile. "Your brother already asked about a protective shelter, but honestly, you have more support than you think." She closed the folder. "Harper, the hospital has already reported that your neighbor saved your life. The police confirmed you were a victim, not a perpetrator. You have people fighting for you. People fighting for her." The words felt foreign. After Denise left, Harper pushed herself upright, reaching for the mirror above the sink. When she finally faced her reflection, her breath caught. She barely recognized herself: yellowing bruises, swollen eyes, hair matted from the night before. But worse than the injuries was the emptiness behind her gaze. She'd lost herself piece by piece, argument by argument, apology by apology. Travis hadn't broken her in one night. He'd peeled away her confidence until only fear remained. Footsteps approached. Harper wiped her tears quickly, forcing herself to sit straighter. Miles entered, carrying a fresh cup of water. His eyes softened when he saw her expression. "Rough moment?" She nodded once, unable to speak. Miles pulled up the chair. "Harper, what you're feeling right now, it's normal. Trauma hits hardest when the adrenaline fades." Harper swallowed hard. "I just feel stupid." "You're not." His voice was steady, firm. "You survived someone who wanted control more than love. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger than you know." She shook her head. "I don't feel strong. Most people don't when they're standing in the middle of the wreckage." He leaned forward. "Strength shows up afterward when you rebuild." Harper's eyes glistened again. "What if I don't know how?" Miles offered the faintest smile. "Then we'll figure it out, one step at a time." Another wave of emotion crashed into her. Gratitude, fear, exhaustion. She felt her voice break. "Miles, my whole life just exploded in one night." He didn't look away. Sometimes things have to break before they can be rebuilt in a way that actually lasts. That was when something inside Harper, something small but stubborn, flickered again. Maybe not hope, but the beginning of it. Yet the darkness wasn't done with her. Not even close. Because later that night, as Harper finally drifted into exhausted sleep, a nurse rushed in holding a phone. "Harper, you need to wake up. There's been a development." Harper's eyes snapped open, heart pounding. Something had gone wrong. Terribly wrong. Harper's heart pounded wildly as the nurse handed her the phone. The screen glowed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Her hands trembled as she swiped to answer. "Hello?" A voice she didn't recognize spoke quickly, breathlessly. "Miss Lane, this is Officer Ramirez, with Denver County Corrections. We have a situation involving the inmate you reported last night." Harper jolted upright, pain slicing through her ribs. "Travis, what happened?" Miles was at her side instantly, eyes sharp. Evan rushed in seconds later, having overheard from the hallway. Harper put the call on speaker. Ramirez cleared her throat. "There was an incident during inmate transfer. It appears Travis Coleman is no longer in county custody." Harper's blood froze. "What do you mean he's not in custody?" Miles shot Evan a look that was half warning, half readiness, as if already preparing for the worst. Ramirez continued. "The official report is still being completed, but early information suggests another inmate caused a diversion. In the chaos, Coleman slipped away from the holding line. We believe someone from the outside may have coordinated this. We're investigating all possibilities." Harper pressed her hand to her chest. "Someone helped him escape?" Evan's jaw flexed, rage simmering. "Brielle." The name came out like a blade. "It has to be her." Harper's breath shortened. The room tilted slightly. "He's going to come here. He's going to try to take my baby." Miles stepped closer, steadying her shoulders with both hands. "Harper, listen to me. The hospital is secured. Your room is on a restricted floor. No one gets in without clearance. But Harper wasn't hearing reassurance. Her mind was already spiraling back into the dark hallway of their home. Travis's shadow stretching long across the walls, his voice slurred with anger. "He said I'd never leave him," she whispered. "He said if I tried, he'd—" Evan placed a hand firmly on the bed rail. "He won't reach you. I'm assigning 2 officers outside your door, and I'm going to the precinct myself. We'll find him." The phone buzzed again, a text this time. Harper looked down. It was from Travis. Just 5 words. "You think you're safe now?" Her pulse skittered violently. Miles grabbed the phone, reading the message with a grim expression. "He's testing her fear response," he muttered. "Classic control tactic. He wants to terrify you before he does anything." Harper felt her throat close. "He shouldn't even have a phone." "He doesn't," Evan said, taking the device. "Which means someone is helping him. Someone with access. Brielle. Of course." The nurse stepped inside, pale. "Miss Lane, we're moving you to a different room away from the elevators and public corridors. Hospital security has already been alerted. They're coordinating with police." Harper nodded numbly, letting the staff wheel her bed down a quiet hallway. Her baby whimpered, sensing her fear. She reached out, brushing his tiny hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." But deep down, she wasn't sure. Once settled into the new room, Miles pulled a chair close. "Harper, look at me." His voice was firm but gentle. "You are not the same woman he controlled. Not anymore. You survived him once. And now, you're surrounded by people who won't let him touch you." She swallowed hard, tears burning behind her eyes. "Why are you helping me? You barely know me." Miles's expression softened. "I've seen women fight battles alone. I won't let you be one of them." Before Harper could reply, Evan re-entered, face pale, eyes blazing. "We've confirmed it," he said. Brielle picked him up outside county lines. Harper's breath hitched. "So, he's out there. With her?" Evan nodded grimly. "And he's coming for control." Miles rose slowly, every muscle coiled. "Then we'll be ready." But even as he said the words, Harper felt it. A chill crawling down her spine. Because Travis wasn't just coming for control. He was coming for revenge. Night settled over the hospital like a heavy curtain, dimming the halls and leaving the world outside, looking colder, sharper, and far more dangerous. Harper lay awake in the transport cot of her newly secured room, the soft hum of machines surrounding her like a fragile shield. She hadn't slept since the call about Travis's escape. Every creak in the hallway made her heart stutter. Every shadow made her muscles tense. Miles sat in the chair beside her bed, hands folded, posture relaxed but too alert for a man pretending to rest. His eyes were fixed on the door, watching, waiting. A quiet sentinel. Evan had left an hour earlier, heading to a command meeting. The officers stationed outside Harper's room took their posts silently, but Harper still felt exposed. Vulnerable. Like Travis's gaze could cut through the walls if he wanted badly enough. Miles noticed her trembling hands. "You're not breathing," he murmured. She exhaled shakily. "It's just too much. He's out there, angry. And when Travis gets angry, he loses control," Miles finished for her. "Yeah, I figured." Harper looked at him carefully. "You talk like you've seen this before." His jaw tightened. "More times than I'd like." Before she could ask what he meant, her hospital door opened slightly. A nurse peeked inside. "Harper, there's someone asking to see you." Her voice was tentative, uncertain. Miles stood instantly. "Who?" The nurse swallowed. "A woman. She says she's Travis's mother." Harper's breath collapsed. "No, absolutely not." But the nurse did not leave. Instead, she stepped fully inside and closed the door behind her. Her eyes softened with sympathy. "She's not here to defend him. She's crying. Hard. She says she needs 10 minutes. Nothing more." Miles crossed his arms. "Not happening." Harper hesitated. A memory flashed. The way Travis's mother, Linda Coleman, used to slip diapers into grocery bags for Harper when Travis forgot to buy them. How she'd whispered apologies when Travis's temper flared. How she'd once told Harper, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to my boy. I just hope he doesn't ruin it." Harper nodded slowly. "I'll see her, but Miles stays." Miles didn't look thrilled, but he stepped aside when the nurse opened the door again. Linda Coleman entered with her shoulders hunched, eyes red, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She looked smaller than Harper remembered. defeated, almost fragile. The moment her gaze landed on Harper, she burst into tears. "Baby girl, what has he done to you?" Harper didn't know how to respond. Part of her still felt responsible, like she had failed Linda somehow by not saving Travis from himself. But Linda stepped forward, shaking her head. "I saw the footage," she whispered. "I heard the dispatch call. And I'm so ashamed." She covered her mouth, sobbing. "I knew he had anger. Ever since he was little, his father, God forgive him, was worse. But Travis, he promised he'd be better. He swore he'd never raise a hand to the woman carrying his child." Harper felt her throat tighten. "Linda, it's not your fault." "No," Linda said firmly, "but I could have warned you. I should have told you the truth sooner." Miles watched silently, evaluating every movement. Linda slowly opened her purse and removed a small black flash drive. This is why I came. Something told me to look at Travis's old computer. I found files, messages, audio logs, things he recorded when he thought no one was listening." She held the drive out to Harper with trembling hands. "He talks about losing control, about Brielle manipulating him, about hurting you." Her voice cracked. "This is evidence, real evidence." Harper stared at the flash drive, stunned, breathless, shaken to her core. Linda squeezed her hand. "You deserve protection. You deserve the truth. And you deserve freedom from my son." Miles stepped forward, eyes burning with anger and relief. "This changes everything." Harper closed her fingers around the flash drive. And for the first time since Travis escaped, something inside her shifted. Not fear, not despair. Something stronger. This time, Harper had power. Evan returned to the hospital room just as Linda slipped out, wiping her eyes. The moment he stepped inside, he sensed the shift in the air. Harper sat straighter than she had in days, one hand curled protectively around a tiny flash drive. Miles stood beside her like a silent wall of muscle, gaze sharp and focused. Evan froze. "What happened?" Harper lifted the flash drive slightly. "Linda found this. On Travis's old computer. Audio logs, messages, confessions. She thinks it proves how long he's been losing control and how much Brielle pushed him." Miles added, "It could be the missing piece for the DA." Evan stepped closer immediately, his entire demeanor shifting into detective mode. "You're telling me there are recordings of him admitting intent?" Harper nodded, pulse steady for the first time since yesterday. "She gave it to me. She wanted to help." Evan reached out, and Harper placed the flash drive into his palm. "I'll get this analyzed by the digital forensics team tonight. If it's real, this isn't just domestic assault anymore. It's premeditation. It's conspiracy." Harper drew a slow breath. "Will it protect the kids?" "It will protect everything," Evan said, his voice low and certain. Miles folded his arms. "And it'll put him away for a long time." But Evan wasn't done. He turned toward Harper with something like awe. "You realize what this means? Your story up until now, it looked like a sudden explosion. But with these logs, the timeline changes. It shows patterns, manipulation, grooming, intent." His jaw tightened. Travis won't just lose the narrative. He'll lose every last advantage he thought he had. For a moment, Harper felt the world tilt not from fear, but from possibility. Before she could savor it, Evan's phone buzzed violently. He answered, listened, then stiffened. "You're kidding me. Right now?" "A beat. We're on our way." He hung up. Miles stepped forward. "What is it?" Evan exhaled sharply. "The media got wind of the escape. They're tearing into the police for losing him. And Brielle just posted a live video claiming Harper faked her injuries and that Travis is afraid for his life. She's spinning the whole narrative." Harper's stomach twisted. "Of course she is." But Evan raised a hand. "That's not the problem. The problem is thousands of people are watching, and some already believe her." Miles swore under his breath. "Unbelievable." "Except now," Evan said, holding up the flash drive. "We have proof she's lying." Harper whispered. "Will the public believe it?" "Oh, they won't just believe it," Evan said. "They'll turn on her faster than she can hit delete." "And Brielle? She's implicated herself. These logs mention her name, repeatedly." For a moment, Harper imagined Brielle's face as the truth dropped like a hammer. The woman who had smirked through her suffering, who had whispered poison into Travis's insecure mind, who thought she was untouchable. Not anymore. Evan pocketed the flash drive. I'm going back to the precinct. If these recordings are clean, we're holding a joint press conference with the DA. We're not letting Brielle paint Harper as the villain. He leaned down, kissed Harper's forehead, and whispered, "You're getting your life back, piece by piece." After he left, Harper glanced at Miles. He smiled softly. "You look different." She blinked. "Different how?" "Stronger," he said, like something finally clicked. Harper looked down at her hands, steady now, not trembling. Maybe it did. Miles moved a little closer. "Good, because things are going to shift fast." As if on cue, Harper's hospital TV lit up with breaking news. A headline stretched across the screen. "Evidence found in Coleman case, possible conspiracy exposed." Harper stared, breath catching. Her nightmare wasn't hidden anymore. It was unraveling in front of the entire country, and for once, unraveling in her favor. Harper had imagined the moment her truth reached, the world would feel triumphant. Freeing. Like stepping out of a cage she'd lived in for far too long. But as the news anchors repeated Travis's name over and over, as headlines flashed and commentators dissected every bruise on her face, the weight of it all settled heavy on her chest. Her story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to strangers, now viewers, pundits, critics, and people who had never once lived a moment in her skin. She sat in the dim glow of the hospital television, her breathing uneven. The screen shifted to Brielle's live stream, now replayed by every channel. Brielle sat in her car, crocodile tears streaking her mascara, insisting Harper was unstable and trying to ruin Travis's life. She claimed harassment, manipulation, even jealousy. The performance was dramatic, polished. Brielle knew exactly how to sell a lie. Harper's hands shook. People will believe her. Miles muted the TV immediately. "Some will," he admitted, "but a lot more won't. Not this time." She tried to nod, but the doubt swallowed her confidence whole. The room narrowed, the air thickening. She pressed her palm against her chest, trying to slow her heartbeat. "I'm so tired of fighting. I feel like I've been fighting forever." Miles pulled his chair closer. "Harper, look at me." She did. "You are not fighting this alone anymore. You have Evan. You have me. You have the truth. Travis is losing everything. Control, credibility, freedom. He knows it. That's why he's desperate." A tear slid down her cheek. "I didn't want any of this to be public. I just wanted to protect my babies." "And you are," Miles said softly. "This is how you protect them, by making sure he never touches them again." Harper closed her eyes, but the dark behind her eyelids wasn't peaceful. It was filled with flashbacks. Travis slamming doors, yelling inches from her face, grabbing her wrist. The constant apologies, she whispered, even when she had nothing to be sorry for. The quiet parts of the abuse, the parts no camera ever saw. She curled forward, hugging her stomach. "I'm scared." Miles hesitated only a second before placing a steady hand between her shoulder blades. "Being scared doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're aware. And awareness is how you survive." Harper tried to breathe through the panic, but the walls felt too close. Her vision blurred again. "I feel like he's still in the room, like he's watching, like—" A knock on the door cut her off. Harper jumped so violently the monitor beeped a warning. Miles stood instantly, muscles coiled, his entire body shifting into a protective stance. Evan entered, holding a manila folder, eyes tired but burning with determination. "Harper," he said gently, "sit back. It's okay. It's just me." She sagged into the pillows, shaking. Evan closed the door behind him. The forensics team confirmed the audio logs. They're real. Every second of them. The DA wants to press additional charges against Travis and Brielle. And he set the folder on Harper's bed. "They're recommending a restraining order that extends to your children for the next 10 years. Harper stared at the folder. 10 years. A full decade of safety she never thought she'd have. But before relief could fully take hold, Evan added quietly, "There's more." Miles stiffened. "What now?" Evan sat, rubbing his forehead. Travis posted something online. An old photo of Harper. Smiling. Pregnant. He wrote, "She was happiest with me. She'll realize that soon." Harper's stomach churned. That old familiar fear spiked again. Miles growled under his breath. "He's unraveling." Evan nodded. "And a man unraveling is dangerous. We need to be ready for anything." Harper's breath trembled. She'd hit the lowest point. But somewhere beneath the fear, a flicker of resolve ignited. He would not break her again. Not now. Not ever. Morning light filtered into Harper's hospital room, soft and golden, warming the cold edges of the night before. She hadn't slept, but something inside her had shifted, subtle, steady, like the quiet tightening of a knot she finally intended to pull loose. The fear was still there, yes, but beside it, something new flickered. Resolve. A knock sounded, gentle but confident. Miles poked his head in. "You awake?" Harper managed a small smile. "Barely." He stepped inside, holding a plain canvas tote. "Good, because today you're getting out of this gown and into something that reminds you you're still a person, not a victim." She blinked. "Clothes?" "Clothes," Miles confirmed. "Courtesy of your brother, who insisted on buying half the maternity section at Target at 6 in the morning." Harper laughed, a real laugh, weak but warm. "That sounds like Evan." Miles handed her the bag. Soft fabrics brushed her fingers, a cozy sweater, leggings, warm socks, comfortable, normal, human. She ran her hand over them slowly, her throat tightening. "It's been months since I picked out anything for myself." "Then start now," Miles said, stepping toward the door. "I'll give you a minute." When he left, Harper moved carefully, wincing at the soreness in her ribs, but she dressed herself anyway. Each piece felt symbolic, a small reclaiming of autonomy she hadn't felt since before Travis's temper became a daily storm. She brushed her hair with the cheap hospital comb, smoothing it back until she almost recognized the woman in the mirror. Almost, but not yet fully. Miles returned, paused in the doorway, and offered a slow nod of approval. "There you are." She blushed. "I look exhausted." "You look alive," he corrected. "That's more important." Evan arrived moments later, dressed in civilian clothes for the first time since the ordeal began. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Harper, you look stronger today." She lifted her chin. "I feel stronger." Evan held a clipboard. "We need to talk next steps. The hospital is ready to discharge you, but you're not going home. I've already arranged a temporary stay at a secured residence for victims of high-risk domestic cases." Harper's stomach tightened. "A shelter?" "A protected shelter," he clarified. "Private rooms, surveillance, staff trained to handle violent offenders. You'll be safe there until we catch him." Miles added, "And you won't be alone. I'm going with you." Harper blinked. "Miles, you don't have to." "I know," he interrupted gently, "but I want to." Her eyes softened. For the first time since the nightmare began, the sense of being truly supported wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Evan set the clipboard down, his tone growing more cautious. "Before we leave, there's something you need to see." He turned on the hospital television. A reporter stood outside the courthouse, holding up a printed transcript. "Breaking news," she said. "Digital forensics confirm the authenticity of the audio logs recovered from Travis Coleman's personal device. These recordings detail escalating violence, manipulation, and a disturbing dependence on guidance from Brielle Hart, who is now wanted for aiding and abetting an escaped suspect." The screen shifted to Brielle's panicked face as she dashed into a car, shielded from reporters by a jacket. Harper watched silently. This was justice beginning. Slow, imperfect, but real. Evan muted the TV. "Harper, this is your moment. Your story is turning, and you need to be ready for what comes next." Harper inhaled a steady breath. "Then let's go." Miles stood beside her. "One step at a time." Harper nodded. "Because today wasn't about running. Today was about rising." The secured transitional residence sat on a quiet Denver street, tucked between two churches and a row of tall evergreens that blocked most of the afternoon sun. It didn't look like a shelter. It looked like a small, renovated craftsman, home warm lights glowing through frosted windows, a wraparound porch, a white swing that creaked softly in the breeze. The kind of place that whispered safety, even if the world outside still felt dangerous. Harper stepped out of the escorted SUV slowly. Her legs trembled, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming shift of environment. Leaving the hospital had felt like stepping out of a fortress. Stepping onto the porch felt like stepping into the unknown. Miles hovered close enough to steady her, far enough to respect her space. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "This place is fortified like a bank vault. Cameras everywhere, reinforced locks, emergency alarms. Nothing happens without staff knowing." Harper nodded, though her heartbeat thudded fast. It's peaceful. Peace is good, Miles said. You deserve some. Inside, the shelter smelled faintly of lavender and fresh bread. A woman in her early 50s, cardigan wrapped around her shoulders, greeted them with a warm smile. You must be Harper. I'm Miriam. We've prepared a private room for you and the baby. Miriam led them down a hallway lined with soft lights and framed watercolor paintings. The room she opened was simple but cozy. A bed, a rocking chair, a changing table, neatly folded blankets. Harper exhaled shakily. It wasn't home, but it was safe. Miles set her bag down and adjusted the crib in the corner. Evan will stop by later. He's talking to the DA. Harper perched on the edge of the bed, fingers intertwined. Do you think they'll catch him soon? Miles hesitated. They're close. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. She nodded slowly. He always hated losing control. And now, Miles said, he's lost everything. A knock sounded. Miriam re-entered with a clipboard. Harper, once you're settled, we'll collect a formal statement. Everything you remember from the past year. You're safe to speak freely here. Harper swallowed. Memories pulsed through her mind like bruises under skin. Words, threats, objects thrown, doors slammed. She wasn't sure she could relive it all. Miles noticed the way her shoulders tensed. You don't have to do it alone, he said. I'll stay. Or Evan will. Harper nodded, grateful. Miriam left them again. The quiet settled thickly. Harper traced the stitching on the blanket beside her. Miles, why are you really here? You barely know me. His expression softened, shadows flickering across his eyes. I had a sister, he said quietly. Different situation. Different man. But I wasn't there in time. I promised myself, if I ever saw someone going down the same path, I wouldn't stay silent again. Harper's breath caught. I'm so sorry. He shook his head. It's not about grief. It's about doing better now. He held her gaze, firm but kind. And you're worth helping, even if you don't see it yet. Emotion built in Harper's throat, but before she could speak, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Evan's name lit the screen. She answered quickly. Evan? Her brother's voice crackled with adrenaline. Harper, listen carefully. The audio logs, you're not going to believe what else was on that drive. Her pulse spiked. What do you mean? There are recordings of Brielle coaching him, Evan said. Diaries, plans, even a message he recorded the night before he hurt you. Papers rustled on his end. He admitted he was losing control. He admitted he blamed you. And he admitted he planned to reset the situation. Harper's blood ran cold. Reset? He meant force, Evan said grimly. Maybe worse. Miles's jaw tightened, eyes blazing. Evan continued, voice steady but fierce. This changes the entire case, and when we go public, there's no spinning it. Travis and Brielle are finished. Harper's fingers shook, but for the first time, the trembling came from something other than fear. It came from awakening power. Harper didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, though. Fear still lived inside her like a coiled shadow, but because adrenaline kept her wide awake. She sat in the small rocking chair in the shelter room, gently swaying with her infant son as the early morning light crept across the floor. Something had changed in her, something irreversible. The girl who once apologized for everything was gone. The woman rising now was different, shaken, yes, but sharper, more awake. Miles knocked softly before entering. He carried 2 coffees and a paper bag. Miriam made muffins, he said. She's trying to fatten everyone in the house. Harper smiled faintly. Smells good. He set everything on the small table. Evan called? She nodded. He's picking us up in an hour. Miles met her eyes. You ready for this? Harper exhaled. I don't know if ready is the right word, but I'm going. Miles's approval was silent but unmistakable. An hour later, Evan arrived, dressed in a dark suit instead of his uniform, the shift signaling the seriousness of what was ahead. He hugged Harper gently. You look stronger than you did yesterday. I feel stronger, she said, surprising herself with how true it felt. They escorted her through the shelter's back exit, no cameras, no strangers, into an unmarked police SUV. As they drove toward the courthouse, Harper watched the city pass by. Quiet suburban streets rolling into Denver's steel skyline. Morning sunlight glinted off glass buildings, making everything look sharper, colder, honest. "Harper," Evan said from the passenger seat, "today isn't about defending yourself. Today is about showing the truth. The DA's office has prepared a statement. You don't have to speak if you don't want to." Harper swallowed. "I want to speak." Both men turned toward her. She continued softly, "He stole my voice for so long. I'm taking it back." Miles gave a single proud nod. "Then we'll stand right beside you." The courthouse steps were already packed when they arrived. Cameramen, reporters, microphones clustered behind barricades. Police lined the perimeter. The tension felt electric. As Harper stepped out, a low rumble spread through the crowd. Some people gasped when they recognized her. Others raised phones. A reporter shouted, "Harper, did you fake the injuries?" Another yelled, "Did you provoke Travis?" A third asked, "Are you afraid for your children?" Miles stepped in front of her instinctively, but Harper touched his arm. "It's okay." Her voice, though quiet, held more courage than she expected. Inside, the DA prepared the microphones. Reporters adjusted their equipment. The hum of voices filled the marble hall, bouncing off high ceilings and polished floors. Then the DA began. "Today we are releasing a series of authenticated audio logs recovered from the suspect, Travis Coleman. These recordings reveal a pattern of coercive control, escalating violence, and premeditation. Furthermore, they show direct involvement from Brielle Hart in encouraging harmful behavior." The room erupted. Pens scratched, cameras flashed. The DA continued. "This case is no longer a domestic dispute. It is a criminal conspiracy." Evan leaned toward Harper. "You're doing great." She wasn't doing anything yet, but her presence mattered. Finally, the DA stepped aside. "Harper Lane has chosen to speak." A hush rippled across the hall. Harper approached the microphones. Her legs trembled, but her voice did not. "I didn't think I'd survive him," she said plainly. "I didn't think anyone would believe me, but the truth has a way of rising, even when you try to bury it. I'm alive today because someone listened, someone cared, and because I finally realized I deserved better." Cameras clicked faster. "I'm not here to attack anyone," she continued. "I'm here to reclaim my life." When she stepped back, the silence was reverent, almost sacred. Miles whispered, "Harper, you just changed everything." But she wasn't prepared for what came next. A detective rushed inside, breathless. "Evan Harper, there's a problem. We just traced Travis's last signal." Evan stiffened. "Where?" The detective swallowed hard. "Near the shelter." The air inside the courthouse shifted instantly. Conversations froze mid-sentence. Reporters lowered their microphones. Even the cameramen stopped adjusting their lenses. Harper felt the temperature drop around her, as if someone had opened a door to a dark, cold room. Near the shelter, her safe place. Evan reacted first. "We're leaving. Now." His voice was sharp, controlled, but beneath it pulsed a fury. Harper recognized a brother's terror wrapped in a detective's instinct. Miles moved even faster. He stepped in front of Harper, body tense like a shield. "Harper, stay behind me. Keep your head down." The officers surrounding the press conference closed ranks, creating a human corridor as they rushed Harper toward the side exit. Reporters shouted questions, but their voices blurred into meaningless noise. Harper's pulse pounded loud enough to drown everything out. "She won't be alone," Evan told the nearest sergeant. "Get 2 cruisers to block the roads around the shelter. No one in or out until further notice." The sergeant nodded and sprinted off. Miles looked back at Harper, reading the panic rising in her eyes. "Breathe. Stay with me. I've got you." But Harper could barely breathe. Her legs wobbled as images flashed like strobe lights in her mind. Travis slamming doors, grabbing her arm, whispering threats against her ear. She had escaped his house, but not his reach. They burst through the courthouse doors into the cold midday air. A line of officers rushed them toward the SUV. Evan opened the back door and pushed Harper inside, gently but firmly. Miles slid in beside her, while Evan took the front passenger seat. The moment the SUV started moving, Harper finally found her voice. "What if he's already there? What if he took something, someone, what if?" "Harper." Miles grasped her hand, grounding her. "He won't get anywhere near your kids. Miriam knows protocol." She locked down that place the moment the alert hit. Evan added, "He's not subtle. The fact that we traced his signal means he's slipping. He wants you scared. He's feeding on it." Harper swallowed hard. Then it's working. Miles shook his head. Not for long. The SUV raced through traffic with lights flashing. Harper watched the city blur past brick storefronts, winter trees stripped bare, pedestrians turning their heads at the sirens. She felt like she was floating outside her body, watching someone else live this nightmare. When they neared the shelter's street, 2 police cruisers were already blocking the entrance. Officers with rifles stood behind open doors, scanning the area. The SUV stopped. Evan jumped out first, checking the perimeter. Miles guided Harper out carefully. "Stay between us," he said. The wind bit sharply at her cheeks. The houses looked the same as they had that morning, quiet, ordinary, yet the air vibrated with tension. Miriam rushed toward them from the porch, relief flooding her expression. "Harper, thank God, everyone's inside. We locked down the building the second we were notified. No one saw him. No one got close." Harper sagged in relief, knees nearly buckling. But then Miriam added, hesitating, "There was something. A note. Left near the side gate." Evan stiffened. "Where is it?" Miriam handed him a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a single piece of paper, ripped at the edges. 5 words, scrawled in Travis's jagged handwriting. "You can't hide forever." Harper's breath stopped. Miles cursed under his breath. He was here. Evan sealed the bag. He's escalating, which means he's losing control. And when abusers lose control, they become reckless. Harper wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the house behind her, the place she thought would be untouchable. "Evan," she whispered, "what if he tries again?" Evan met her eyes, steady and unflinching. "Then we'll be waiting, and next time, he won't walk away." But Harper couldn't shake the chill crawling up her spine. Because if Travis had gotten close enough to leave a note, he could get close enough to do worse. Night settled over the shelter with an unsettling stillness, the kind that felt too deliberate, like the world was holding its breath. Harper sat in the rocking chair of her dim room, gently swaying as her infant slept against her shoulder. The lavender-scented air, once calming, now felt thin and fragile. Every creak of the old floorboards sent a nervous jolt through her spine. Miles stood near the window, arms crossed, gaze sweeping the dark yard for the 100th time. The porch light flickered. Twice, Harper stiffened. "Is that normal?" she whispered. Miles shook his head. "Not for this place." He stepped closer to the glass, scanning the walkway, the bushes, the narrow gate where the earlier note had been left. Nothing moved. No car, no footprints. But the silence felt wrong. Then, a soft metallic click echoed from outside. Miles froze. Someone opened something. Harper's pulse surged. "Is it him?" Miles didn't answer. He reached into his jacket and retrieved a small tactical flashlight. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me." Before Harper could protest, the hallway lights suddenly flickered once, twice, then cut to half-brightness. Harper's breath caught. "Miles, something's wrong." He nodded grimly. "Which is why I'm checking it out. Evan's team is 2 minutes away. Just hold on." He slipped out the door, and Harper turned the lock instantly. Her hands shook so violently she nearly missed the bolt. She stepped back, heart hammering, staring at the wood grain of the door like it was the only thing keeping her alive. The baby stirred gently, and she pressed her cheek to his tiny head. "It's okay. Mommy's here." But inside, she wasn't sure. Outside, footsteps echoed slow, deliberate, measured, not rushed like Miles's, not coordinated like the officers arriving soon. These were different, predatory. A shadow passed under the crack of the door. Harper's breath seized. Then, a soft knock. 3 slow taps. Her skin turned cold. She backed away, whispering, "Miles, please be close." But when a voice came through the door, it wasn't Miles. It was Travis. "Open up, Harper." Her entire body locked. Her fingers tightened around her baby until her knuckles whitened. His voice was low, almost gentle, a tone she had once fallen for before she learned what lived underneath. "I just want to talk. You've caused a lot of trouble today. Things got blown out of proportion, but we can fix this. You and me, together." Harper felt her legs weaken. Sweat beaded down her back. "You took everything from me," Travis continued, voice tightening. "My home. My reputation. You turned my own mother against me." He laughed, then a hollow, broken sound. "But that's okay. I know you're scared, and scared people make mistakes." Harper couldn't move. He was right behind the door, Inches away, she could almost feel his breath through the wood. A quiet scrape. Metal against metal. He was trying to pick the lock. Harper gasped and stepped even farther back, clutching her belly, her baby, her sanity. "Somebody help," she whispered. Then from down the hall, Miles's voice thundered. "Step away from that door." A crash erupted, wood smashing against drywall. A struggle, grunts of effort. Harper couldn't see, only hear. Fists colliding, bodies slamming, the chaos of a fight fueled by desperation. "Evan, now!" Miles shouted. Boots thundered through the hallway. "Get on the ground," an officer yelled. Harper pressed a trembling hand to her mouth as more crashes echoed. Something heavy fell. Someone cursed. A taser snapped. Silence followed. Heavy, trembling silence. Then Evan's voice came through the door, shaking, breathless, furious. "Harper, it's over. We've got him." Her knees buckled. Tears streamed down her face in a silent, overwhelming release. But as the officers dragged Travis away, kicking and screaming, one final thing happened. He smiled at her. A cold, unsettling smile. "This isn't finished." The officers kept Travis pinned to the floor, wrists cuffed so tight the metal bit into his skin. His breath came in ragged bursts, half fury, half madness. Even as they dragged him upright, he twisted his head toward Harper's door, eyes wild with obsession. "You think this ends here?" he snarled. "You think you've won?" Miles shoved him forward. "Shut up." But Travis only laughed, a sharp, fractured sound that made Harper flinch from the other side of the door. She hugged her baby close, whispering soothing words even though her own heart felt like it was beating out of her chest. Evan appeared in the doorway a moment later, sweaty, bruised, but steady. "Harper," he said softly, "it's safe now. He's in custody. This time, he's not slipping anything." Harper could barely nod. Her legs felt like water. The baby stirred against her shoulder, sensing the tension humming through her body. She kissed his head, grounding herself with the tiny warmth of him. Miles entered next, rubbing blood from his knuckles. Travis's, not his. "You okay?" he asked gently. Harper tried to answer, but her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "He was right there. If you didn't get back in time." "I would've," Miles said firmly. "I will always get back in time." The certainty in his tone made her chest tighten, not with fear, but something deeper. Something she wasn't ready to name yet. Evan stepped farther into the room, lowering his voice. "Harper, there's something you need to know." When we searched him, he had more than a note. Her stomach dropped. "What?" Evan pulled an evidence bag from his jacket. Inside was a small item, a key. Not to the shelter, not to a home. To her old house. "I thought we changed all the locks," Harper whispered. "We did," Evan said. "But this isn't the original. It's a copy. Someone made it for him." Harper closed her eyes, dread sinking like ice into her bones. "Brielle," Miles muttered. "We need to find her before she helps him again." But Evan shook his head. "She's already been found. She turned herself in right after the break-in." Harper's eyes widened. "What? Why?" Evan handed her another bag containing a crumpled, handwritten letter. "Read it." Harper unfolded the note carefully. The writing was rushed, panicked. "Travis is worse than I knew. He's not the man I thought I was manipulating. He's dangerous. He's unpredictable. I never meant for this to go this far. I'm sorry. Please, please don't let him find me. Brielle." Harper stared at the words, stunned. Brielle, the woman who had smirked at her suffering, who had whispered poison into Travis's ear, was now terrified of him too. Miles let out a low breath. "He turned on her, just like he turned on you." Evan folded his arms. "The DA is negotiating her cooperation. She's ready to testify against him." Harper looked down at her sleeping baby, tears gathering in her eyes, not from pain, but from something strange and overwhelming. Relief, complex and jagged, but real. "Harper," Evan continued gently, "you've done everything right, but we're moving you again to a high-security safe house. The shelter did its job, but this is bigger now. The state wants you protected at the highest level." Harper nodded slowly. "Okay." Miles bent down slightly, meeting her eyes with steady warmth. "You're not running this time," he said. "You're choosing to live." A tear rolled down her cheek, and she didn't bother wiping it away. "I want to live," she whispered. "I want my kids to live without fear." Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. "And they will." As officers escorted Travis screaming down the hallway, his voice echoing like a final dying threat, Harper realized something. She no longer heard fear in those echoes. She heard an ending, and the beginning of her own life. The state-issued safe house didn't look like protection. It looked like an expensive Airbnb tucked in the quiet hills outside Denver, neutral-toned walls, modern furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking pine trees, a stone fireplace glowing softly in the corner. But beneath the homey calm was unmistakable tension. Reinforced doors, motion detectors, high-grade security cameras, and a silent alarm system wired directly to law enforcement. Harper stepped inside slowly, her infant nestled against her chest while Evan carried the diaper bag behind her. Miles entered last, his posture alert, scanning the layout like a soldier walking into unfamiliar terrain. "This is beautiful," Harper whispered. Miles shook his head. "This is fortified." Evan locked the door behind them. "Agents will rotate outside the perimeter," he said. "Nobody gets close without us knowing. You're safe here." Harper nodded, but her heartbeat still fluttered. Trauma didn't vanish because someone said the word safe. Miriam had packed her belongings and left handwritten notes tucked between the baby's blankets. Even that small kindness made Harper's throat tighten. "Harper," Evan said, placing a folder on the kitchen island. "We're preparing for Travis's trial. Brielle is cooperating. She's already released a statement confirming the logs are genuine." Harper froze. "She admitted everything?" "Most things," Evan replied. "Enough to bury him legally." Miles added quietly, "You're finally winning." But Harper didn't feel like she was winning. Not yet. As Evan left to coordinate with the agents outside, Miles guided Harper to the living room. "Sit," he encouraged gently. She sank into the soft couch, staring at the flickering fire. "I thought I'd feel relieved," she murmured. "I thought hearing everything fall apart for him would make me feel free." Miles lowered himself onto the edge of the coffee table, facing her. "Freedom isn't a switch, Harper. It's a process. You've been surviving for so long. You don't just wake up and know how to live again." Her eyes welled with tears. "I don't know who I am without fear." "Yes, you do," Miles said softly. "You're the woman who walked into a press conference and spoke her truth. The woman who held her baby while facing the man who hurt her. The woman who's still standing after all of this." She swallowed hard. "I still feel broken." Miles's voice softened even further. "Broken isn't the same as defeated." He reached out, brushing a gentle hand against the back of hers. She didn't pull away. The fire crackled. The house settled with soft creaks. The baby sighed in his sleep. For the first time in months, Harper felt stillness, not the fearful kind, but the kind that whispered possibility. "Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Anything. Why do you stay? Why do you keep choosing to help me?" Miles didn't answer right away. His eyes steady, warm, earnest, held hers without wavering. "Because when I found you on that floor, holding your baby with everything you had left, something inside me said, 'Don't let her fight alone.' And I listened." Harper's breath trembled. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," he said. "You're someone worth fighting for." Heat spread through her chest, gentle, confusing, comforting. A feeling she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Before she could respond, Evan re-entered, holding his buzzing phone. "Harper, we have an update." Her stomach tightened. "What now?" Evan glanced between her and Miles, his face serious. "The DA just confirmed Travis is being moved to a federal holding facility. He's restrained, sedated, and under constant surveillance. He won't get near you again." Harper closed her eyes as relief washed over her, real, deep relief. Then Evan added, "One more thing. The judge approved your emergency custody petition. You have full legal custody of your children." A breath she'd been holding for months finally escaped her. Miles smiled softly. "Harper, you won." But Harper shook her head gently. "No," she whispered. "I survived. Winning comes next." The safe house grew quieter as night settled over the hills, the kind of quiet that felt intentional, thick, protective, like the world itself was trying to give Harper space to breathe. After Evan left to coordinate with the federal team, Harper wandered into the kitchen, drawn by the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint scent of pine drifting through the cracked window. Everything in the house felt new. The polished countertops, the plush rug under her feet, the weight of her own freedom. Miles watched her from the doorway, arms crossed, leaning casually against the frame. "You're walking straighter," he said softly. Harper tilted her head. "Am I?" He nodded. "Last night you looked like you were holding your breath. Tonight, you look like someone finally exhaled." She traced her fingers along the island counter. "I still can't believe the judge granted full custody." "You earned it," Miles said. "You protected those kids through hell. Now the law is simply catching up." Harper smiled faintly, a warm glow flickering somewhere deep within her chest. It wasn't pride exactly, it was something gentler, like the first spark of self-worth. She poured herself a glass of water, trying to steady her racing thoughts. "I thought healing would feel big, loud, even. But it feels small. Like a whisper." Miles shrugged lightly. "Whispers turn into voices. Voices into strength. You're on your way." She took a sip, then looked at him carefully. "What about you? You barely sleep. You're always watching the windows." Miles's expression flickered. "Old habits, hard to break." "From your sister?" Harper asked softly. His jaw tightened. He nodded. "She deserved someone to watch the windows. I wasn't there, so now, I'm here." Harper stepped closer. "Miles, you can't carry guilt forever." He gave a dry laugh. "Says the woman who blamed herself for surviving." Her breath faltered. He wasn't wrong. Before she could respond, the baby's soft cry echoed from the living room. Harper hurried to scoop him up, brushing a kiss onto his forehead. The tenderness in her touch, the warmth in her eyes, it made something in Miles's gaze soften. "You're a good mom," he said quietly. Her throat tightened. "I'm trying." "You're succeeding." She rocked the baby gently, feeling his tiny body settle against hers. Something inside her settled too. She glanced toward the sliding glass door. Beyond it, the night sky stretched wide and peaceful. "Can we go outside?" she asked. "Just for a minute?" Miles hesitated, then nodded. "I'll check the perimeter first." He stepped out briefly, scanning the yard with the alertness of a trained soldier. A minute later, he returned and opened the door. "All clear." Harper stepped onto the deck. The cold night air wrapped around her, crisp and refreshing. The baby snuggled into her chest with a small sigh. Above them, stars shimmered against the black sky. Miles stood beside her, hands in his pockets. "Feels different out here," he murmured. Harper nodded. "Feels quiet." A long silence stretched between them, comfortable, unhurried. The kind of silence she once feared but now welcomed. "Miles," she said softly. "Yeah? When all of this is over, when the trial is done, and the danger is gone, do you think I can have a normal life again?" He turned to her, meeting her eyes with steady warmth. "Harper, you won't just have a normal life. You'll have a better one. One you choose." She looked back at the stars, tears gathering but not from sadness, from something brighter. Hope. For the first time, hope didn't scare her. She whispered, "I want that." Miles's voice was low, sincere. "And you'll get it." Harper exhaled slowly, deeply, peacefully. For the first time in a long time, she believed him. The courthouse buzzed like a hive ready to erupt, its marble floors vibrating beneath the weight of reporters, camera crews, attorneys, and uniformed officers. Harper had returned not as a victim this time, but as a key witness, invited, protected, supported. The safe house had given her space to breathe. Now she stepped into this storm with steadier shoulders, her baby safe with Miriam back at the house, and Miles beside her like an anchor. Evan approached with a clipboard and a tired but determined expression. "Today's the formal arraignment," he said. "Travis will be present, so will Brielle. The DA wants you in the building, but you won't be speaking, just observing. Is that okay?" Harper inhaled slowly. "Yes." Miles gave her a quiet nod of reassurance. Security ushered them through a restricted entrance, past metal detectors and guarded hallways, until they reached a waiting area outside the main courtroom. Through the heavy double doors, Harper could hear the crowd, the shuffling, the murmuring, the snapping cameras. Her stomach twisted, but she didn't falter. "You don't have to go in," Evan reminded her gently. Harper lifted her chin. "I do. I need to see him, hear the truth." When the doors opened, the noise intensified. The courtroom was packed. Rows of reporters filled the benches, laptops open, cameras rolling. The court officer announced, "All rise," and the judge entered. The collective rise of bodies sounded like a single breath. Then the officer called for the defendant. Travis was escorted in wearing a county jumpsuit, wrists shackled, ankles chained. His face was pale, gaunt, even but the moment he spotted Harper in the gallery, his expression twisted into something familiar and terrifying. A smirk. Harper's pulse spiked, but she held her ground. Brielle was brought in next, unshackled but heavily guarded. Her once flawless hair was tangled, her makeup gone, her eyes red and swollen. She glanced at Harper only once, and in that single glance, Harper didn't see spite. She saw fear. The judge began, voice firm. "We are here to address charges of assault, endangerment, unlawful confinement, conspiracy, and attempted harm of a pregnant individual. Additional charges may be attached pending digital forensics." The DA stepped forward, holding a stack of documents. "Your Honor, the state has obtained verified audio recordings where the defendant admits loss of control, expresses intent to harm the victim, and identifies Miss Brielle Hart as a co-conspirator encouraging violence." Gasps rippled through the room. Travis stiffened. His eyes darted to Brielle with a flash of betrayal. Brielle looked down at her lap, trembling. The DA continued. "Furthermore, the defendant violated custody by escaping, approaching the secure residence of the victim, and attempting unlawful entry." Camera shutters burst like fireworks. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Coleman, how do you plead?" Travis straightened. "Not guilty," he said loudly. "The recordings aren't real. She set me up." He jabbed a finger toward Harper. "She's always been manipulative." "Mr. Coleman," the judge snapped, "you will not address the victim directly." But Travis lunged despite the chains, shouting, "Harper, you think this ends with a flash drive? You think they'll believe you forever?" Officers restrained him instantly. Harper didn't flinch. For the first time, she saw his rage not as power, but as desperation. The judge slammed the gavel. "Order. If the defendant cannot remain civil, he will be removed from the courtroom." Travis struggled, then choked out, "You were nothing without me." Miles stepped slightly in front of Harper, voice low but lethal. "She's more without you than you ever were with her." The courtroom gasped. Travis was dragged back, sputtering curses that echoed off the polished walls. Barry from Channel 7 News whispered loudly to his cameraman, "This is going to blow up online." Evan leaned over to Harper. "You doing okay?" Harper nodded slowly, eyes fixed on Travis. "I'm not afraid of him anymore." And for the first time, she meant it. The sentencing hearing drew even more attention than the arraignment. By the time Harper stepped out of the black SUV, reporters were already shouting her name from behind barricades. But today felt different, less like chaos, more like closure. She wore a soft cream sweater, her hair pulled back neatly, her posture tall. Miles walked beside her, steady and quietly protective. Evan flanked her other side, radiating the fierce calm of someone who had waited a long time for justice. Inside the courtroom, the energy buzzed with anticipation. Travis was brought in, shackled, but he no longer smirked. The arrogance that once fueled him had drained away, replaced with a hollow, frantic anger. Brielle sat at the opposite table, shoulders hunched, her lawyer whispering urgently in her ear. The judge took her seat. "We proceed with sentencing." The DA rose. "Your Honor, given the severity of the offenses, the documented premeditation, the victim's testimony, and the attempted break-in while under custody, the state recommends the maximum sentence allowable." The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. Travis jerked to his feet. "I was set up," he yelled, voice cracking. "That woman," he pointed at Harper, "ruined my life." Miles tensed as officers forced Travis back into his seat. The judge glared down. "If you interrupt again, Mr. Coleman, I will remove you." Harper inhaled slowly. Every instinct told her to shrink, to disappear, but she didn't. She held her head high. "Miss Lane," the judge said gently, "would you like to make a victim impact statement?" Evan touched her arm. Miles nodded. Harper stood. The courtroom stilled. She stepped forward, her voice soft but unwavering. "Your Honor, I lost myself long before I left Travis. I lived every day afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of breathing too loudly, afraid of what might happen behind closed doors." She paused, the silence heavy. "But then one night, he didn't just hurt me, he hurt my children, and something inside me finally woke up." She looked directly at Travis, not with fear, but with clarity. "You didn't break me, you just showed me who I never want to be again." A hush swept across the courtroom. Harper continued, I stand here not as your victim, Travis, but as a mother who survived you. And I hope this is the last time I ever have to see your face. She sat back down. Miles exhaled softly, pride shining in his eyes. The judge reviewed her notes, then lifted her gaze. Travis Coleman, in light of overwhelming evidence and continued danger to the victim and public, I hereby sentence you to 42 years in federal custody with no possibility of early release. A collective gasp filled the room. Travis lunged again, rage contorting his face, but officers pinned him before he could even stand. The judge turned to Brielle. Miss Hart, for your cooperation and documented fear of the defendant, your sentence is reduced. However, you will serve 3 years in state custody for your role in the conspiracy. Brielle burst into tears, but Harper felt nothing. Not pity, not anger, just closure. As officers dragged Travis away, screaming, Harper felt the final thread binding her to him snap. It was over. Outside the courthouse, the winter sun felt warmer than it should. Evan hugged her tightly. You did it, Harp. You really did it. Miles stepped closer. What happens next? Harper looked between the two men, the city stretching out behind them, bright, alive, full of possibility. I start a new life, she said. One I choose. Miles smiled. And if you want someone walking beside you, I'd like to be that person. Harper's breath caught not from fear this time, but from hope. Genuine, gentle hope. She reached for his hand. I'd like that too. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel frightening. It felt wide open. So, that's where the story closes, my wonderful friends. You're still here with me, right? If you truly stayed all the way to this moment, then something in Harper's journey touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. And that means something. It means you're human, you're empathetic, and somewhere inside you, you're healing too. You know, the Stoics often said, the obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius. Harper didn't choose the pain she walked through, but she chose what came after. She chose courage. She chose truth. And that's a power every single one of us holds, even when life tries to convince us otherwise. Maybe you're facing your own quiet battles. Maybe you feel small or tired. Then hear this. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to build a life where safety and love aren't luxuries, but your everyday reality. As Epictetus said, you may not control events, but you can control how you respond. If this story touched you, even a little hit like, share it with someone who needs strength today, and subscribe so we can keep walking through these stories together. You're not alone, and your comeback is already on its way.